Hey everybody, welcome back to Challenge the Call with Max and Avery. I'm your host, Max.
And I am Avery. How are you guys?
All right, so we are back from a nice little break, and boy, has it been refreshing for me personally, at least. Avery, how'd you do over our little recording break there?
Dude, honestly, if you want the honest opinion, everybody,
Honest opinion.
I almost didn't want to come back because it was kind of nice. I'm not going to lie, but we are officially back. It's been a month, a whole month. We said 2 to 3 weeks, guys, but hey, here we are, and it's been a month.
Life happens, you know. Sometimes life just happens. We should have recorded yesterday, and guess what? We both just kind of didn't argue it. Didn't, but we're out back right now today. It's working out perfectly because speaking of breaks, I'm actually on my spring break from the school, so perfect timing there. It's only about noon right now. Don't judge us. We're drinking,
Yeah.
but only about noon right now. We're both off work. We're chilling, and we're gonna introduce a new segment that's going to be the entirety of this pod, the flow zone. So basically, Avery and I are just we're gonna start talking. We're gonna drink some beer, and we're just gonna chat. No outline, nothing planned. We're just gonna talk to each other.
Just think of like two guys at a bar talking about sports. Like that's kind of where our mindset kind of went with this. The flow zone is a great name, especially because the beers are flowing. We're flowing. We're getting everything going, especially with a month off. You kind of need that. You can't go back in straight prepared. You got to procrastinate a little bit. You got to have some fun and, go in. If it sucks, guys, let us know. We'll look back into going back into, our normal preparedness. But
Yeah,
right
let us know what you guys think of it at the end of this episode. But we're gonna get into some crazy topics that are probably just gonna pop up out of nowhere. Things are gonna get completely derailed and off topic, and we're not gonna stop it. We're just gonna let the train ride. So
now,
that being said,
yeah. No,
That
go
being
ahead.
said, let's jump straight into it. Let's get into that. So we never recap the Super Bowl, right? Super Bowl number, whatever it is, 58 something. 52? What
50.
Super Bowl was it?
I think 58. Let me look.
Was that right? Um, but yes, we had the 49ers playing the Chiefs. Feels like forever ago now. But unfortunately, the Chiefs did win. I say unfortunately. You were rooting for Niners too, right? You didn't really
Yeah.
want the Chiefs. Yeah. So Chiefs won it. A little disappointed, but what are you gonna do? What do you think of that game?
I think that the Chiefs. You ever like watch someone like try to hustle somebody all year? The Chiefs kind of looked like they weren't that good, and it felt like they're like, we'll just give like 75% effort. And then in the Super Bowl and the playoffs, they're like, all right, we're the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's just flip it on. That's kind of what Patrick Mahomes felt like this year. But no, the game, like, I was really hoping for the 49ers, man. Like, I think all of us were.
It was if I remember correctly, it was pointing all 49ers for such a stretch. Like at the first quarter, first half, something or other, like signs were pointing 49ers. They were going strong. I thought they could lock it down, but as people will always tell you, you don't root against Patrick Mahomes in the fourth quarter, down 7. There was a stat that was like the percentage of times that he has won being down 7 in the fourth quarter, and it is like insane. It's like 80 to 90% of the time when he's in that scenario, like he pulls it off.
Which, I mean, that's just Patrick Mahomes, though. You got to think Mahomes is now officially, like, solidified as not the best because Tom Brady has 7 rings, but he's so damn close. Like, he officially has, 3 rings now and 4 Super Bowl appearances, and he's been in the league 7 years. And so at this moment, like, this is insane. He's like on the track record of blowing Brady out of the water. He could win 10, 11 Super Bowls.
And you have to take that with a grain of salt too when you say like, well, Brady is still the best. He has 7 rings because, like you just said, he's been in the league 7 years. We were talking about it at work a little bit. Like, at what point do you draw that line of like Patrick Mahomes has passed Brady? Because sure, Brady has 7 rings, but Brady's been in the league for how many years? Like, how long did he have to do it? Patrick Mahomes has like a 50% ring to year in the NFL ratio right now. Like, at what point do you start considering the timing of those kind of like consecutive wins and appearances compared to just like an overall been doing it for 30 years kind of,
For sure. And I think In my perspective, he's not quite there yet, but I think give him like I'd say two more Super Bowls. He doesn't even have to match like the six or like the seven. Two more Super Bowls. He goes to 6 rings or five. I think it would be five. 5 rings, and like then you got to start talking about, hey, Mahomes is probably better than Brady at this moment. The thing is, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, we've already started seeing some of this rebuild and everything in Kansas City at the wide receiver position, but now there's a potential that they're going to lose Chris Jones. Travis Kelsey's getting up there in age. And so there's just this potential that they're going to have a whole new roster in about 3 years, probably a new coach. Andy Reid's not going to stick around for more than, I'd say, probably, 5 years? Like, I think Andy Reid's close to this retirement age, too. I think that it's going to dictate how he performs with a new team and when it officially gets completely rebuilt. Because the New England Patriots had to do that, like, about 3 times under Tom. And then Tom had to do that again in Tampa Bay. So it's going to dictate, if like he can handle the rebuild on top of it.
Well, and they've already gone through that a little bit this year. I mean, just look at their receiving core. How many receivers that they had starting this year actually played for them last year or the year before?
Fair.
Hardly any. So, I mean, that's the most important spot as far as Mahomes' ability goes right there. That's the reason the first half of the season they looked, honestly, like ass. Is because the receivers, like it was majority on the receivers. And so Kelsey leaving, that one is going to be huge because he is so big in the receiving game that it is going to be a major affected factor right there. Also, obviously, like you said, Chris Jones leaving. Defense, don't want to underestimate defense because that helps out Patrick Mahomes a lot. If he can win a game with 30 points, that's a hell of a lot easier than having to score 60 just to stay ahead of the other team. Like, that's a lot to ask out of an offense. But I think he's been through that a little bit already, just with this receiving core. It's going to continue happening on a little bit of a larger scale with some of those other positions, but, I mean, we've already seen those changes being made.
Yeah, and we have. And at the end of the day, like, I think that's what's going to, like, spread Brady and Mahomes out, if they can do that. But speaking of this game specifically, did you know we had 2 records broken back-to-back in this game by kickers? So Jake Moody,
right.
Jake Moody in the first quarter, he ended up breaking the record for 53 yards, the longest field goal in a Super Bowl. And then in the fourth quarter, Harrison Buckner broke Jake Moody's record for 58-yarder.
That would have to be the worst feeling in the world. I mean, like, he held that record for all of what, a quarter or two?
Yeah.
Like, that would suck.
I know, like Jake Moody, especially Jake Moody, like he struggled this year. And that was kind of the Achilles heel for the San Francisco 49ers was the kicking game. And like just to see, okay, I finally did something right for this team. I broke a record in the Super Bowl, 53 yards. My name's going to go down on the legacy board, like Super Bowl record. Here it is, win or lose. And then like a quarter and a half later, hey, guess what? You're done. Like Harrison Buckner, watch what I can do or what you can do. I can do better. And sure enough, 5 yards longer, Harrison Buckner.
Yeah. Now he'll still go on record as holding the record for longest kick in the Super Bowl. It's just going to be like a very, very short-lived record. It's going to be a very, very short-lived record, which is just that to have such an exciting moment like that. Like he never got to celebrate it. No. Like he was still like on the job. When it got broken, there was no going out and I mean, I'm sure he still to some degree went out, celebrated, like it was one of his longest kicks, like in the Super Bowl, like cool, you broke it still, but that celebration would have had to have been tampered down a little bit by the fact that you lost that record in the very same game.
Right. Oh man. Well, and I know you just talked about like devastating losses and stuff, right? How much of a devastating loss was this on Brock Purdy? He literally like had a great first half, and then the second half he didn't play bad. He didn't play a bad football game, but he just couldn't get the job done. When you have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game on the other side, it's hard to get that job done. Does this affect Brock Purdy's future in San Francisco, or do you think he's officially solidified as the San Francisco starting quarterback?
I think he made it to a Super Bowl, and he played well in said Super Bowl. I think he's fine in the franchise. You do not go all the way to the Super Bowl and compete, like truly compete. Like they didn't get whooped or anything, but you do not go compete in the Super Bowl. And if teams are moving on from you after that, like that team's going to struggle because that's not the way you deal with a player. Like that is a talented quarterback right there who led your team to a Super Bowl berth and almost had it. Arguably, if this wasn't the very first Super Bowl with the rule change of overtime, arguably the 49ers won this game.
I totally forgot this went into overtime. Oh, yeah. My God. Okay, so that just brings a whole different dynamic. And I agree. I think Brock is going to be the starting quarterback for the 49ers for years to come. But this overtime, like this was the second time ever that this game went into overtime. And it felt like the longest night of my life. I'm not going to lie. Like I really wanted the 49ers just to pull it off in regulation to end it. But it went into overtime, and I think it went down to, like 3 minutes left in overtime. And I thought we were going to see, like, a second overtime.
Now, see, this is where the rules start to get confusing. Because supposedly, my memory is a little foggy of exactly what was happening at the time, so bear with me. But supposedly, if the Chiefs wouldn't have scored on that, like, 3rd and goal or whatever it was, with the clock almost about to run out, supposedly they would have gotten another quarter. Like the overtime is like another half of football or something. Right. So if the clock would have ran out on them just then, they would have flipped fields and they would have like played their 4th down still or something. That's what I was hearing at least. That's like what the kind of word that was being. I was with my offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator and some of the other coaches watching and stuff, and that was kind of the talks going on at the time. Was like that was what was about to happen, and I was like that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah. I don't like that rule at all. I feel like if the quarter ended, the 49ers should have won that game because they were up by a field goal, right? And I really think that's what should have necessarily happened. The other aspect about this game is, one, you're going against Patrick Mahomes. How do you kick a field goal in overtime, San Fran?
Because of the new rule.
I know, I understand
because of the new rule.
It's Mahomes, like on the other side. Like that's just a controversial like coaching decision. I feel like with Kyle Shanahan, but they also had an opportunity. I think it was 4th and 3 for the Chiefs at one point in overtime, and if they would have stopped them on that 4th and 3, the game would have been over.
Yeah,
and I was like standing up
or something.
Like I was really excited because I was like, if the Niners stop, because like I was watching with Liz's parents and my wife's parents and everybody. I'm like, this is like one of the most important drives and one of the most important downs in this game. And they didn't realize. I was like, because if the 49ers stop them, the Niners win this game. And I was so excited and I was really hoping. And then they complete like a slant across the field to Kelsey that he took down to like the 19-yard line. And I'm like, well.
I was going to say, not only did they get the first down, but they took it like into the red zone, which was the like ultimate stinger. Because at that point, arguably, you still could have held them to a field goal and stuff, or still could have held them out of field goal range. That's what I'm thinking. Right. You could have let them get the first down and still like been making them go slow, pound it down the field a little bit, and you could have let the clock run out before they would have reached field goal range.
Yeah,
but they took it all the way down into the red zone, and ultimately like that was going to end in points one way or another.
Which really sucks. It really sucks. And, I'm not going to lie. I didn't want these two teams in the Super Bowl. Like, not even the Niners. Like, I don't mind the Niners, but, like, we really wanted the Lions, right? Like, the Lions, they were in the NFC Championship, blah, blah, blah. And we wanted the Ravens. Well, it didn't happen, but this was still a really good Super Bowl to watch. It
was an entertaining one. And commercials. There were some decent commercials in this one, too. They've kind of sucked the past few years. Like, this one had a couple solid ones, I thought.
I like the Budweiser commercial. That was a good one. But
which one was that?
No, it was Coors. It was Coors with the train.
And
running into the house.
I liked the Dunkin' Donuts commercials with, like, Tom Brady and stuff in them. Like, those were the best. Those were pretty solid.
Ice Spice. She was in one of the Dunkin'
Yeah.
commercials. Um, well, speaking of Ice Spice, and speaking of Duncan and Ice Spice and her relationship with Taylor Swift and everything. Taylor Swift and Ice Spice are really good friends.
No.
Travis Kelsey had a pretty decent Super Bowl, but I kind of want to talk about the other Kelsey brother and
Yeah.
his retirement to the NFL.
I thought we already knew this. Was this unofficial, or did this? Because I thought that was already like had happened, or was that just the rumors?
That was just the rumors, and it officially came out that Jason Kelsey retired as a Philadelphia Eagle, and he is probably going to go down as probably the second best center to ever play the game of football in the NFL. And did you watch his retirement speech? Oh my God, man!
No, I didn't.
Dude, he was talking about like the first time he met his wife. He was talking about him and Nick Foles' relationship in 2017. He was talking about every like aspect. If I was a Philadelphia fan, I would have been in tears just watching that, because like he meant, when you think of Philadelphia, their slogan is what? Brotherly love. And Jason Kelsey was the epitome of brotherly love. Like, he was the one that came out and he would be like friendly to everybody and like just such a good dude. And then how he played in the NFL, it's going to suck seeing him gone, because he was probably the face of the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, I hate to say it, but
yeah, he was more so the face of that franchise than Hurts probably. And that is like, I can't blame him for wanting to leave, right?
Yeah.
Like, they lose the Super Bowl last year. Arguably, like, not a horrible time to retire, you know? Like, it'd be a lot better to retire with a win. I think if they would have won, he wouldn't have even thought about playing this year. He'd have been done. But then to turn it back around and come back this year, not even just the way they ended, or not even just like the totality of the season, but the way they started the season compared to the way they ended the season. Ending that season in that fashion, going what, 0-8 or some shit.
Yeah.
Like, they were like 10-0 and then went like 0-8 or whatever. Like, that sucks. That is tough. And we had seen, I think we talked about it on the pod, that there were issues in that locker room. Like, that locker room was falling apart. That team was falling apart. Both coordinators had left, and like there were new coordinators this last year, which is going to change a ton. I don't care who the head coach is. We've talked about it before. Head coach is a culture guy. You bring in a new coordinator, it's going to change everything. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't blame him one bit for being like, yeah, I'm not going to try to mess around with going through this again. Like I'm done. Should have been done last year. I want out.
Well, and honestly, yeah. And like, he's a big time player to lose.
Yeah.
Like, how many offensive lineman jerseys do you see in the NFL? Not many, but all of like the Lynx, like their field, like when at home games, Jason Kelsey jerseys everywhere. He was loved, man. He's a podcaster, and he'll probably put everything he has to that. But at the same time, like, it's gonna suck to see him gone. He's gonna be a first ballot. You gotta think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh, easily.
But yeah, sad news on that front. But
hey, retirements happen. Everyone's got to be done at some point.
Hall of Famers. The one thing with Hall of Famers, the Bears had 3 Hall of Famers inducted this year.
Yes,
Devin Hester, Steve McMichael, and why am I blanking on the third one?
I don't know. I'd have to look.
Well, let's just talk about Devin Hester real quick. He meant everything to the city of Chicago when he was there. We're talking about a franchise guy from like 2005 to 2014. Like, the big thing with Devin Hester is like he was one of the biggest personalities to come through Chicago in a long time. And I know it was prior to you watching football and stuff, but the 2006 Super Bowl, I remember being 10 years old, and he probably solidified my love for like the Chicago Bears when he returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown in the Super Bowl, when everybody knew, do not kick it to Devin Hester, do not kick it to Devin Hester. And he takes it 106 yards to the house against Peyton Manning against the other side. It was probably one of my all-time.
It's awesome to see a kick returner get a little love, just because they're not on the field all that much. You know, like they don't they're on the field a few times a game. It was Julius Peppers, by the way.
Oh,
They're on the field like maybe 7, 8 times a game. I don't know. How often do you return a kick or a punt if you're the same guy?
right.
But like they can be such a crucial piece in the game still too. Like games can be won and lost. Maybe not lost per se, but like games can be won off of returning a kickoff or a touchdown. Like that is easy points right there. I know we had 2 games. There were 2 games of ours this season where we would have been shut out if it would have not been for one of our kick returners. It was the same guy, but it would not, if it were not for him returning a kickoff for a touchdown, we would have been shut out in those games. And so like it's a person you don't really think about too hard or too often, but like they can be hugely impactful.
100%, dude. The other guy was Steve McMichael, Mongo. He was a defensive tackle for the Bears. The thing with Steve McMichael, he's battling ALS right now, Lou Gehrig's disease. And I don't know if it's like really a pity vote in, but at the same time, he was part of the 1985 Super Bowl team. He played with Walter Payton. He played on that 85 Bears defense. He was a starter. Much respect. And then Julius Peppers. We talked about, I don't know if we've ever really talked about Julius Peppers, but there's a guy on the Bears right now that reminds me a lot of him, and that's Montez Sweat. And Julius Peppers was when we were going through like our rough little patch from like 2011 after we fired Lovie Smith to like 2016, 2017. He was like the bright spot of the Chicago Bears. And I think he might have played his last year when you first started watching football. But those 3 guys, man, like they made a huge impact to the Chicago Bears. That's for sure.
Yeah, super cool seeing 3 Bears be inducted into the Hall of Fame like that. Just it's nice to see when you're in such a tough spot as far as what are the Bears going to do right now. They're kind of down in the dumps, poverty franchise, like looking to turn things around. It's nice to see that like, hey, there is success here. It might not be like outright like Super Bowl rings or like playoff, what do you want to call it, bursts and stuff right now currently, but like there is success that comes out of Chicago. We just want to be able to see a little bit more of that.
For sure. And maybe we'll see some more in the future. We will see. I know the Bears did make a big move, and we franchise tagged Jalen Johnson this year. So we finally got him back. I mean, it's not on a long-term deal, but that gives us an extra year to, hey, let's get this man signed. And also it gives it, maybe he doesn't come out and he performs like he has been the last couple of years. And it's like, okay, well, maybe we shouldn't pay this guy this much money. But I'm excited. What do you think about Jalen Johnson?
Yeah, he's one of the best DBs in the league. Love having him. And we need to keep that defense strong. Like the offense is struggling right now. We're working on still getting that offense going, whether it's with Fields, whether it's going to be using the number 1 pick, whether it's a combination of both down the road, who knows. But the one thing that we cannot afford to let happen is to let the defense get holes poked in it. Because offense is wildly important in everything, but at the same time, you can have weak spots in an offense and compensate with them with other things. Like if you have a weak run game, you can compensate with amazing receivers and a solid pass game. You have a weak passing game or something, like you can compensate with freaking power running backs that are just going to hammer it down your throat. If you're weak in the O-line, guess what? You can screen the death out of teams and, you can compensate. In a defense, if you're weak in a spot or in an area, even just one position, that's tough to compensate for because teams are going to know that weakness and they're going to exploit that weakness. And as a defense, you're not calling the shots, you're reacting to what's happening. And so if you're sitting and getting targeted at a certain spot, certain position or whatever, then that's tough. That's what's going to lose games. So we need to make sure that defensively we are like controlled and tight. Offense will come. We can get players and we can make things happen. We have a couple already, but defensively we need to make sure we don't neglect it on any level.
Well, and a lot of that is what Ryan Poles has said also. I know he's talked about Tyreek Stevenson this off season, but we retained Matt Eberflus because of that reason. Like he is a great defensive coordinator. We've said this multiple times. And have you seen the Flus's new makeover that he did? He came in, dude. Look up Matt Eberflus's new makeover. This dude grew the beard out. He just, instead of dyeing his hair how he has, that he looks like a vampire, like he looks like an older version of Mike Vrabel kind of now. That's like the vibes I get from him. But he just looks completely different. He's like changed his whole appearance. He kind of doesn't look like death anymore. He looks like an actual cool cat that could run the Chicago Bears. I like Matt Eberflus's kind of change that he's made this offseason.
So I'm looking to see if I can find it right here. That's not it. But I like a good makeover. The key thing is going to be hopefully he sticks with that defense. Because we did bring him back as a head coach. And so if he comes back and tries to be all involved and whatnot with the offense, that ain't going to fly. Like, stay on defense. Defense is where you belong. Like, keep that thing rolling and let Shane Waldron do his thing.
Shane Waldron.
I had to think of his name for a second.
Yeah, I forgot that we brought him in. The Bears did trade for Ryan Bates, the starting center for the Buffalo Bills, for a 5th-round pick also. So the Bears have made some moves this offseason already. It'll be interesting to see what happens come draft day. I know it's been played out and everything between the Justin Fields and the Caleb Williams, almost so much so that I'm just ready for draft day to come. Yeah. And see who, or whether, like, if the Bears go and trade Justin Fields next week, we'll have our answer. We should have our answer next week anyways, because if, like, I think next, not this Friday, but the upcoming Friday, the 15th, I think that's when, like, you can pick up their 5th-year option or not. And if the Bears don't pick up Justin Fields' 5th-year option, then I think we know that Justin Fields is not going to be a Bear next year. I think we're going to have our answer by the end of next week, hopefully. We'll see.
Well, that'll be good to know at least. And even then, that doesn't always necessarily mean, like, I'm still curious to see what they do with the pick, even if that is the case, because there's still options that they can go. You can take Marvin Harrison Jr., number 1 or 2, whatever we trade with. Commanders currently sitting in number 2. Something I think is super interesting that I wouldn't hate is trading down for the Commanders. They have Cliff Kingsbury now, so they're going to want Caleb Williams. That'll be a huge, like, get for them. I don't know what they would pay out to get it, per se. But let the Commanders have number 1 overall. We take the number 2 overall. We take Jaden Daniels with the number 2 overall. We sit him under Justin for a year, 2, whatever. Let's see how Justin plays out. Jaden Daniels is there learning from him. And if Justin can do something this year and he's solid, we can keep rolling with him. If he has another mediocre year and it's just not really working out, now we've got Jalen Daniels, a year on his belt of just being there, learning, experiencing, and let's throw him into the ring.
Yeah, and I think that's like the perfect way to look at it too. But at the same time, like, to be honest, I love the Jaden Daniels. I love that aspect of things. If there was one quarterback in the draft class that the Bears would draft, I think it would want to be Jaden Daniels, just for what he's done for the LSU program. And the other aspect with it too is, like, he's a very humble guy too. I hate. We were talking about this prior. I hate entitled people, and I think, like, the big reason Caleb Williams does not strike me as a Chicago Bear is he's so entitled about everything he says, everything he does, specifically at the combine, was ridiculous.
Yeah, and speaking of the combine, like, did you notice how many quarterbacks, like, didn't perform?
I know.
Like, so many of them didn't run, didn't do drills. They're just like, no, you've seen my tape. Like,
I don't get it. I really don't get it. They four quarterbacks or 5 quarterbacks. No, yeah, four quarterbacks ran at the combine. Keaton Slovis, Sam Hartman, and Austin Reed and Spencer Rattler. Like, not many players. Is the combine getting played out? Is that kind of like, is it starting to get played out a little bit? At least for a quarterback position.
I don't know what their incentive is per se. I think the idea, the only thing I can possibly think is Marvin Harrison Jr. also did not do the combine. Right. And his reasoning was that there's nothing that he can do at the combine to make himself any more valuable. There are ways he could make himself less valuable at the combine, but he was like, you've seen my film, you have all my tape, you know I'm fucking good. So, like, I'm not going to do this little run around like being judged, like being fixated at the center for no reason, like
Right.
these are some random drills. It's a timed 40. Like you've seen what I can do on the field, you've seen what I can do in a game. Like, what I am. So I think a lot of those quarterbacks just have the same kind of mentality of like, hey, you have access to my film. You know how good I am. There's nothing I can do for myself at the combine. There's only ways that I could potentially hurt myself at the combine.
And that's true. I think that's like a major factor into that. We talked about Marvin Harrison. What about a wide receiver that probably played themselves into a first round pick by breaking the 40-yard dash record in Xavier Worthy? Did you see that?
I
Four,
didn't see that one. I missed it.
oh man, he broke the 40-yard dash record. That was held by John Ross with a 4.24 or 4.22, and Xavier Worthy out of Texas broke the record with the 4.21 40-yard dash. That's moving,
That is,
and grooving.
no, that is absolutely crazy. Just, I can't even imagine running a 4.2. Even just some of these linemen, you watch some of these big like O&D linemen, and they're running sub 5.
Yeah,
Like no problem. Like some of them are freaking. I don't even remember the best, but there was like a 300-pound guy ran like a 4.5 or some shit. Like how the fuck?
yeah. Roger Ross in Garden was like the fastest out of Washington. He ran a 4.92 40-yard dash as an offensive lineman, which
Look
is
at look at D line because they're the crazy fuckers. Like
well, it's Dallas
offensive line,
out
yeah,
of Alabama.
offensive line. Like you stand, you block, you whatever, yeah, whatever. D line, like look at some of the D line times because they're fucking insane.
4.46 for Dallas Turner. Chop Robinson 4.48. That's nuts, and that's D end. D tackle. The fastest was Brandon Fisk out of Florida State, 4.78, and that's a D tackle. That's a nose tackle. Like that's nuts. A 4.78, I couldn't even imagine having that guy. He's running like a freight train.
Yeah, that is scary. That is scary right there. Like all that coming at you.
It's scary, yeah, for sure. Logan Lee out of Iowa, D tackle, baby. He ran a 5.05.
The only Iowa guy to be in the combine.
Yep, which I think the biggest thing with that is just because, well, we're young. Like, I was very young, and I mean, Cooper DeJean couldn't go, of course,
Yeah,
because he's still hurt, technically. But they were talking a lot about Cooper DeJean during the combine. Him being, I think on Mike Mayot's, like, top 50 board, he's, like, rated number 31. He's probably going to be a first-round pick, even maybe a early second because of the injury.
The projection, the like thing rolling at the bottom, I forget if it was showing him first round. I think it was showing him first round, like somewhere in the 20s, I believe. But like going to the Packers.
Yeah,
and every time it rolled by the screen, I just shook my head. I was like,
Lucas. We already lost Lucas Van Ness to Green Bay last year. I don't want to lose Cooper DeJean to Green Bay. I think Logan Lee. He's probably going to be a sixth round pick. I mean, he was good for Iowa, but he's kind of an undersized D tackle that I don't know if it will really truly transfer over to the NFL, but we will see.
I remember reading his whole description and background and stuff, and it was talking about how he's undersized and lacks like punch power.
Mm-hmm.
There were some positives that could be said for like speed and being good with hands and stuff, but like I know his big like downside was like lacking that kind of get off power. He gets caught up on blocks and yeah. Let's see, I can find them.
Let's see, I'm looking at it right now. I'm clicking on his description. So his prospect grade of 5.69.
Yep. Which is read the description for what that is too.
That is,
it's like the not likely to or something.
Yeah, it's candidate for a bottom of a roster or a practice squad.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Which, I mean, at the end of the day, Logan Lee was never the star of, like, the Iowa Hawkeyes. I mean,
No.
he was always a great guy to have in there, but he was never a star. I mean, the one thing that he did excel at was his broad jump was 9.6. Like, that's pretty decent for a broad jump for a D tackle. I
Definitely.
mean, 6'5", 281. I mean, he didn't do anything to kind of like, oh, hey, I'm going to be this guy. Um, but,
He
we'll see.
he is a very very hard worker though. Like he is a dude that has grit, as a lot of those Iowa guys do. But I remember last summer just when they were doing one of the conditionings after lift, running like the 55-yard dashes and stuff that they have to do, and they're just cycling through them like it's the line has to run. And when the line finishes, like the semis got to start, and the semis finish, like the skills start, whatever. But I remember watching them, and it was a pretty warm day, Like there's a couple guys kind of starting to puke a little bit, kind of tapping out, like it wasn't going great. And I remember watching him just like get down on the line, 3-point it, throw up, put his head up, and take off on the whistle. Just didn't even flinch. Just like got in the stands, puked, and took off out the gate. But so gritty guy.
For sure. Yeah. Hey, he might be a seventh. Like, hey, what if the Bears draft them 7th round? Developmental guy. We could have an Iowa guy on our roster. That'd be nice. Um, but yeah, no, the combine, it was good to watch this year. I mean, I think if any like position group really stood out this year, it had to be the running backs. The running backs looked real good. And one specifically that probably had one of the best days for a running back was Blake Corum.
I was just gonna say, was it Blake?
It was Blake Corum. I think Blake Corum is going to be a first round pick. Just from like the production he had at Michigan, plus him having a really good like
Well,
combine
and
day.
the argument that you can make with what he's done at Michigan and all that is look at Michigan's O line. Like
Mhm.
Michigan's O line is insane, like best of the best, whatever. But look when you this is one case where like the combine can help you. Like in Blake Corum's case, like the combine could help him, not just hurt him, because ultimately they showed him at some point going through one of the drills or a couple of the drills, doing the whole, when they overlap the film with someone else doing the drill, just
Yeah,
to show, and it looks really trippy at first because they like it's like this weird like phased out type of thing. But regardless, they were just showing how much faster like Blake Corum's reaction and speed was to it was like a cutting drill, like they had to come up to a bag, cut either way. And they were showing it with I forget who in the league right now and stuff, but from like a couple of years ago or so. And that's one of those things that just show like it's not just Michigan's O line that like helped fuel this guy's career. Like he's a good running back. Like he will be a very solid running back. He has the skills himself. He's not just hiding behind a massive O line or anything.
for sure. And I think so too. And you got to think like not just Michigan like O line, but like in the NFL, everybody's kind of like Michigan O line. Like, I mean, yeah, you're going to have some weaker offensive linemen, but at the same time, they're still in the NFL as starters. They're still good at their job. I mean, the defense is also still good at their job, but like,
That's the thing you got to watch for. Sure, the O line's great, but the D line is also better as well.
right. So we shall see about Blake Corum, but I think he'll be. I don't know necessarily if he'll be a first, but he'll at least be a second. I don't see him going lower than the
No,
second round.
someone will take him.
Michael Penix, on the other hand, he had a very great combine, and so did Bo Nix, which kind of deludes the quarterback uh, free agency and trade pool in the NFL currently. Because when both those quarterbacks threw really, really good at the combine, it kind of dried up the trade market for Justin Fields in a way. Because Justin Fields, at this moment, I don't think he is a top 3 like quarterback in free agency or a trade prospect. I think he's number 4. But if you combine all 3, it's kind of hard to dictate because you got to think Kirk Cousins is going to be the number 1 guy wherever he goes, and that's when the dominoes are going to start to fall, right? Because Kirk Cousins, he's been great in Minnesota. I mean, he's a seasoned vet. He throws the ball pretty damn good. I've been hearing a lot of reports of Kirk Cousins going down to Atlanta or going even back to Washington. What are your thoughts on that?
I've heard some reports of Justin Fields going to Atlanta.
I've heard that also. I mean, I've heard a lot of stuff about Justin Fields. Just today, I was reading him being a Brown, having a three-way trade with Atlanta, Cleveland, and Chicago. I mean, but I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting to see, but you got to think Kirk Cousins is going to be that first domino to fall.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins is one of those, like, he was in the playoffs the past couple years, I think.
Yeah.
Like, Vikings have been looking good. He just got injured. You know, that was the only kind of downfall as far as this year went for the Vikings. And so, he's a really solid quarterback. I think it was us that were talking about him potentially going to Chicago. Making a trade of Justin Fields, whatever, for Kirk Cousins and, like, trading the first overall and blah, 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 whatever else. Like, him somehow falling into the mix of all that.
For sure. And, like, the second quarterback, like, everybody's saying it's Baker. Like, if Baker doesn't re-sign with Tampa Bay, that with, like, the way Baker's kind of performed this year, that it could be Baker as the second quarterback falling off. Which, I mean, I could see wherever Kirk doesn't go, I could see them wanting to bring in a veteran quarterback. Because what teams really need a quarterback right now? Atlanta, Washington,
Patriots.
New England, Pittsburgh, because they're moving on from Kenny Pickett.
Yep.
And then you could
Seattle.
Minnesota if Kirk leaves. Minnesota and Seattle, and then you could put in Chicago. You know, at this point, like, all signs are saying that Chicago could be getting a new quarterback. So that's 8 teams. So
Titans. Who's Titans quarterback?
Will Levis. I think they'll give him one more year. I mean, they drafted him early in the second round. I think Will Levis will get another year. But yeah, that's 8 teams right there, and maybe Arizona, Kyler Murray.
Yeah, yep.
I mean,
they need one.
Maybe. So, like, there's 9 teams, 8 to 9 teams. It's like, okay, like, Kirk is going to sign first, and he's going to go where he wants, whether it's staying in Minnesota. But it sounds like the writing's on the wall that he doesn't want to stay in Minnesota. So that's going to open up a whole bucket of worms with that. And, like, he could go anywhere. He could go to Atlanta. He could go to Washington. I could see Kirk Cousins going to Seattle. I mean, that sounds like the perfect situation for him. A built team. Seattle's already perfect for him. But we'll see, man. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting free agency. I've been hearing rumors about Justin Fields. A lot of rumors about Justin.
I've been hearing too many rumors about Justin Fields. I'm like you. I want to see what happens.
Yeah.
Every time I hear something new, I'm just kind of, especially because this time of year, at this point and stuff, it's like, hey, did you hear about this, like, rumor? Yeah. Is that a rumor? Is that a smokescreen? Is that what they're thinking? Like, who the fuck knows what's going on? No one knows shit except for Ryan Poles and the other, like, GMs of every other team.
Yep. Oh, well, shoot, man. I feel like that's kind of all we got for the NFL. And
I'm ready to talk some college.
Oh, wait, I got one more thing. College football video game is coming back, by the way. It is coming back July 12th. NCAA football is officially coming back, and I'm very excited.
Thanks to all of the NIL stuff, they can work it out. They're able to bring the game back and actually put the characters in the game because they're paying them. It's like $600 if they opt in.
And a copy of the
being
game.
In the game. And a copy of the game, yeah.
Okay, well, so $600 and a copy of the game. That's awesome, right? But at the same time, that pissed me off. Did you hear Arch Manning said he's opting out of the game after all these?
I did not.
Yeah.
I get it.
He's opting out. And you know why he's opting out?
Because he's worth more than $600?
He said he's trying to focus on football, on the field, not in a video game. I don't understand that because all that he has to do is sign his name, get $600 and a copy of the game, and that's it.
See, so
he doesn't have to do anything else.
Here's the thing, though, with that, which is a point that our offensive coordinator made that I actually understand very, very well. So the reason you would opt out of the game, especially being someone like Arch Manning, is it's a $600 check. What's more valuable, your brand or $600? So on his level, on his, like, you know, like, you're getting paid for your name, image, and likeness, it is more valuable to him, or he could say, and I'm not saying this is his actual standpoint at all. Like if he's saying like, I'm just trying to focus on football, I really don't care about this video game, like that could be truthful, who knows, whatever. But I can totally understand the world where he's like, I'm not going to undersell my brand for $600. Like if me being in this video game is worth way more than $600, like I decline that deal. Would you go work at Hy-Vee if they were going to pay you $7.25 an hour?
No.
Like, you know what I mean? So that's the kind of principle that we still need to like think about. Is like, yeah, like you're in a video game and you get a $600 paycheck because you weren't getting any credit before. But is that enough compensation for the name? Because depending on who you are, like no, it's not. He's Arch Manning. Manning is a wildly popular name just right off the bat. He already has a major brand with both of his uncles being professionals, like Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. I think him saying, yeah, I'll be in this game for $600 is like insulting to him.
I get that in a sense, but at the same time, I just feel like it's a video game and all you got to do is sign your name and you're in. And like, nobody cares. It's not, I mean, but it is his name and I understand that.
So but if I came to you and I said, hey, like, we're going to do this podcast, Challenge the Call. It's a great thing. I'll give you $10 to record it. And I'm making like millions off of this thing. And I'm like, I'm going to pay you $10 every time you record an episode because you bring in a huge crowd and blah, 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 and are going to make me a ton of money having your name attached to this thing. Are you going to do it for $10?
Yeah. I mean, necessarily, I don't know. Like, I mean, I would definitely want to get more money than that, for sure.
Yes, you would. You would want to get more money than that.
I do.
Your name and if 90. Let me add a stipulation to that. 90% of our fan base watches because of you. And
yeah.
I'm saying that I'm gonna give you $10 to record this pod with me that I'm making millions off of because you bring in a bunch of fans.
Yeah, I would be pretty pissed off. And so I understand. I guess I do understand this. But at the same time, like, I'm a big advocate. I've always been a big advocate for, like, college football video game. And Arch Manning was going to be, like, my number one transfer recruit to transfer to Iowa, try to steal him away from Texas. And now I don't get that opportunity, which, sucks. But, July 12th, there's a lot of great players that did opt into the game.
Yeah, there's over 10,000 already that have opted in to
which is insane. So like it's coming back. It's been a long time coming because they've thrown the game around like for the last 5 years. I feel like, and when it ended, it was like radio silence for like 5 years. And the last 5 years, it's like college football is in the works. It might come back. It might be here. It might be now. And then now it's official, and July's right around the corner. It's pretty exciting.
It is super exciting. I am ready for college football, like so much. Like NFL, what's going to happen with the Bears? Yeah, exciting, but like I don't know. College football, like I am ecstatic to watch some college fucking football this coming year. Like conferences are changing up. Colorado's going to have an O-line hopefully this year. Like I'm ready to see some shit go down.
I forgot you were a Colorado fan.
Also, yeah, baby. I just finished watching Coach Prime on Amazon.
It's funny that you mentioned that because one of the biggest names to be like the poster boy for a college football video game is Shedeur Sanders.
Oh yeah,
which I could see because he's a very popular college football name out there right now. So
he is.
Yeah, I mean, hey, go Buffs, I guess. But that just means you're gonna have to get a PS5. And we're going to have to play with all that time that you have.
See, in your life. That is the unfortunate thing about the new NCAA is you have to have a PS5.
Yeah, and I
have a PS4, and I don't plan on upgrading because you want to know the last time I've turned on my PS4?
Probably the last time we played Madden together.
I think I turned it on since then. I turned it on a month or two ago. I think I played Madden or Rocket League or something on my own at one time, but. Yeah, I don't use it that much. Especially since I have a smart TV now, I don't even use it for like my Netflix and stuff anymore. So
it just sits there. It just collects dust.
Pretty much.
There's nothing wrong with that, I guess.
I mean, it's great. I can turn it on and use it when I want to. Am I going to spend $500 on a PS5 to do the same thing? No.
But that's fair. All right. Now that we talked about that, we got to get into a little bit of basketball, college basketball.
No, we
Specifically.
don't, because I wasn't done with college football.
All right,
Um,
you go for it.
they're starting to make some rule changes in college football. One of them being the quarterback communication, like during the game, headsets. Like quarterback's going to have an earpiece, and coaches are going to be able to basically just call in the play to their quarterback. I believe I don't know all the official rules and stuff on it, but you get one player on the field, I think, at a time that has an earpiece. So like you could do it for defense. You could give it to like the middle linebacker. It'd be weird though because then the defense would have to huddle, and if the offense is going fast paced, it's kind of going to defeat the purpose and all that shit. But like offensively, you give that thing to the quarterback, and you just tell him what play to run, and he can huddle up, he can say the play, and you can give him reminders and everything. You can be like, hey, like curl to flat or some shit, like whatever you want to say, like so. That's going to be interesting, and that's going to be across all levels. Like we are looking at testing that this spring, being able to tell our quarterback to play and like, hey, like run this.
And that's going to help. Like good coaches, that's going to help a lot. I feel like, but that's an interesting thing because the NFL already does that. Like the NFL has had that for a long time now. Sorry, I just saw this article. Mitch Trubisky is in Chicago for a workout with Ryan Poles. That's weird. Mitch might be the backup quarterback for the Bears again. That's super weird. Anyways, no, I mean they do that in the NFL, so why not do it in college? Why not transfer it to the college football game?
Another huge rule that I think D1 already has that D3s don't, but are going to make happen now is it's looking like we're going to be able to have like not reviews per se, but we're going to have iPads on the sideline that we can actually watch like the film being recorded with our players and stuff. Like we're going to have, because we weren't able to do that originally. Like division, like how you see in the NFL, everyone has the Surface Pro and they're sitting there like watching the previous drive. Like we weren't allowed to do that.
Oh.
We are now going to be able to do that, where we can sit on the sideline and actually be looking at the last drive that just happened and be like, all right, boom, 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 bop, whatever, like see what's going on. And that's going to be huge for us.
Right.
Like, that's, being able to make like in-game adjustments, like, hey, what's going on? Because I can't tell you how many times our head coach has been like, what's going on out there? Like, what's happening? Why is this play getting jammed every time? And everyone's kind of looking around and watching. We're like, I don't know. I can't, like we've had moments where it's like, Max, watch the backside DN, like you watch the secondary, you watch this guy, like everyone on any given play is trying to watch like a certain area of position, which is hard, because sometimes I don't want to watch the backside DN. I want to watch like where the ball is.
Yeah.
So this is going to be like huge in being able to kind of figure out like what the hell is going on with certain stuff and make adjustments, and even being able to show the guys, because the guys, it's like, did you block that guy? Yeah, I blocked him. Like watching it the next day, like he totally whiffed. Like he didn't touch a soul. Like why would you lie about that? Now we can be like, really? Because you didn't. Like if you look right, like you need to touch that guy. Just touch that guy, and we're fine.
Dang. Which I mean, hasn't that already been in place in like D1?
I think it might. I'm not 100% sure. I 100% know it was in the NFL. I think D1's probably had it. I don't remember seeing it in any games that I can think of, so I don't know for sure. But like, I know in D3 it wasn't a thing.
Well, now that just helps out with you guys now. Like, I feel like that's very important, especially because that gives you an advantage on your side of like, just like the coaching aspect. Maybe not so much the player aspect, but the coaching aspect, definitely.
It helps out the coaching aspect a ton, and just play calling and whatnot. And we also get a 2-minute warning now.
I saw that. Yeah, 2-minute warning, which is going to be nice. It's going to make games longer, but it's going to be nice.
Oh, it's good. Well, the 2-minute warning is happening because of the shortened clock rules.
Right.
So it's really not going to make the game longer.
Well, that's good.
Because the whole remember the rules they made to the clocks in D1 where after first down the clock keeps running, you can't call consecutive timeouts, and there was one other one that I kind of forget now. But remember when they changed that last year in D1?
Yeah.
That rule is trickling down to us now as well. Because that originally we were operating the same way. Like clock stopped after a first down until you got set and it started, like all that jazz. That's now trickling down to us. So the games are actually going to be a little faster. So they're giving us a 2-minute warning so that in the last 2 minutes of either half, the rules are going to go back to normal. Like clock will stop after a first down and that stuff.
Nice. I mean, is that kind of confusing to you a little bit? Like all these rule changes? Does it
Not really.
throw you?
I mean, that one at least is simple enough. Like,
Right.
if anything, it's more confusing to me that after a first down, the clock is going to stop, but then it's going to restart when the ref says so. Like, now, if you were operating a clock and there's a first down, just like, great. Don't think about it. Just let the clock roll.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, I think that's all I got for football. You want to
That is all I got for football as well. So we're going to take a little intermission. You guys aren't going to notice, but we need to go refill some beer. So we'll be back in what's going to be 2 seconds for y'all. All right, we're back. Big break there. 2 seconds, right? Crazy. So now we are going to get into a little bit of college basketball. And we are going to start off with the most prolific college basketball athlete of the times, Caitlin Clark. Just broke a massive record, broke Kelsey Plum's all-time scoring women's record, and also just recently after that broke Pistol Pete's all-time scoring record, men's, women's, just in general, college basketball, broke the all-time scoring record. Did you watch either of those games when she broke those records?
So I watched the Pistol Pete performance, and that was incredible. So she officially is at 3,685 points for her career, dude. That's insane. 3,685 points. And that was a win against number 2 Ohio State, which made Iowa leap Ohio State, which was
that game was crazy. That Iowa earlier in the year had lost to Ohio State. That's the reason Ohio State was ranked number 2. Iowa was ranked like 6 or something. But this game, we totally just proved why, like, we should have been up there all along. I don't know what happened in that first game. Something was a fluke. Something didn't go right. Whatever it was, they dominated this game.
Yeah.
Absolutely killed them. So, yeah, I watched that game too, or at least the last 3 quarters of it, because I kind of forgot it was on. But it was a super good game. I loved watching it. Our boss is actually an Ohio State fan, so it was kind of like a, yeah. But, no. Caveat, though, to her breaking Pistol Pete's record. Pistol Pete did it back when there were no 3-pointers.
Yep.
And so that is like, take it as you will with the fact that how many baskets did Pistol Pete truly score versus how many baskets did Caitlin Clark score? Not to take anything away from her. It's still a huge, like, credit to her and everything. And it's still insane just to begin with. Like, that's a lot of points. That's a lot of fucking points.
Dude, yeah. I'm glad that you mentioned that with Pistol Pete. So, one, also caveat with Pistol Pete is at that time, LSU did not allow freshmen to play their first year on campus. So he did this in 3 years. He averaged 44.5 points per game in 3 years for LSU. So that's another asterisk too with it. But his coach actually kept his tracker, and when they allowed 3-pointers, he technically averaged 57.2 points a game and had 4,602 points. If
there would have been 3-pointers, he would have been like 4,000 something.
Yeah.
Interesting. I was just going to do the opposite for Caitlin Clark. I was going to like figure out her total 3-pointers and take a point off of all of them and see what she would end at.
Yeah. So, I mean, technically, if he would have, he'd still have the record over 1,000 points.
So
but
Caitlin Clark made 509 3-pointers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take away 500, you would have to take away 509 points from her point total. So she would be left at 3,500 something.
3,000, which I mean technically could be almost. The difference with it too is technically Caitlin Clark could break this next year if she wouldn't have declared for the WNBA. because she
Yeah.
has a COVID year too. So even with it, I mean, asterisks aside, yeah, that would have been 5 years, but Caitlin Clark could have still broke it next year on the other side, playing devil's advocate anyway. So like, to each their own.
Then she would have done it in 5 years, though,
Instead of
compared, like you said, Pistol Pete doing it in 3. It's kind of that Tom Brady argument again. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, 30 years, 7 years. Like what?
which
How do you gauge those type of things?
and
But
it's hard to because it's comparing apples and oranges. It's comparing the women's game to the men's game, and
100%.
it's hard to dictate with that. But to each their own. Caitlin Clark has been a phenomenal athlete, probably going to go down as the best Iowa athlete of all time. It's hard to say that, but like it's true. Out of every sport, she's probably meant so much to this program. And it's hard to see her go to the WNBA when you know she has 1 year of eligibility left.
It is hard, but like she has broken so many records, like conference, Iowa, nationally. Like
Yeah.
she's just broken so many different records and everything by this point. And yeah, it's gonna suck to see her go, but you know what? Like she has her degree. Like she
Right.
finished her degree, she got her 4 years done. She didn't go early to the WNBA or anything like that. She's just not opting in to take her 5th year, which I can understand.
Yeah.
You want to move on to the professional world, even though
She's
we were
taking
just talking about NIL and everything, and well, as you mentioned, like she can probably make more money in college
Do you
right
know
now
what
than the WNBA.
do you know what a first round athlete makes in the WNBA?
Uh,
Right.
60K, 80K.
$76,000.
I was close.
You know how much Caitlin Clark made with NIL last year?
100K over.
1.25 million.
Jesus.
So, let alone her like stepping away from Iowa basketball and declaring for the WNBA. One, it's going to bring a whole new dynamic to the WNBA, especially the Indiana Fever, because not only is Caitlin Clark going to be probably an Indiana Fever because she's going to be the first overall pick, but she's also going to pair up with another dynamic female basketball that has a big personality that was at South Carolina and Aaliyah Boston. I don't know if you remember Aaliyah Boston.
I do.
It was Caitlin Clark versus Aaliyah Boston last year with South Carolina. They're going to play together on the same team. And Indiana Fever might be very dangerous. And
So I'm going to backtrack you for a second because you are mentioning that Indiana Fever has the #1 overall pick, and obviously Caitlin Clark is going #1 overall. Could she make more money in college? Yeah, easily.
100%.
But of course, a part of that 1.2 or 5, whatever you said, mil is a part of like sponsorships and stuff, of which she's still going to have in the NCAA or in the WNBA. So like, yeah, she'll probably make a little bit more than just a base pay there as well. But big reason, whatever, for leaving right now. I don't know if you know or not, she's actually dating Connor McCaffrey,
yeah,
who is currently a coach with the Indiana Pacers. So
That-
her going to Indiana and the WNBA when her boyfriend is there coaching the Pacers, like, why don't you go right now?
Right. It makes so much sense for her to go. Life aspect, basketball aspect. And you're right. Those sponsors are still going to be there. And she's going to be a transcendent athlete for the WNBA. I guarantee the WNBA sponsors and like their like viewership is going to go through the roof because of Caitlin Clark.
At least for a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it will truly sustain, but there's going to at least be a spike at the beginning of next season when the WNBA starts to get things rolling and Caitlin Clark takes the court for the first time. Like, there's definitely going to be a spike in viewership. And speaking of that, and of records that she's broken, this isn't even a record like she is broken per se, but that Ohio State Iowa game, it broke the record for like most viewership of, I forget what the exact details were, but it had more viewers than a lot of other games going on this year.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Fox said that the Iowa Hawkeyes 93-83 victory over Ohio State was the most watched regular season women's college basketball game on any network since 1999 with 4.4.
There was something more than that. There was
Also,
something like it had like more viewers than fucking like major games, like professional games. Like
this
the Celtics versus whatever game had less viewers than fucking
which
Ohio
it,
State, Iowa.
this article goes on and says this is the second most watched WNBA, or not WNBA. This is the second most watched college women's basketball game ever. The first being LSU versus Iowa in the national
In the national game,
championship
yes.
last year with 5.1 million. What do both have in common? Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
So this just shows not only has she made this lasting impression on the Iowa Hawkeyes and her legacy in Iowa City, this makes a lasting impression on the female basketball game. Like this, she's the LeBron James of the college women's basketball, and probably going to be the LeBron James of the WNBA.
Literally, because that one of her number one complaints from non-fans is her complaining to the ref and stuff.
Yeah.
LeBron is also a bit of a complainer to the ref, but LeBron is also much, much like more out of line and weirder than like Caitlin Clark is. Most of the time when she does it, like she has somewhat of a reason, but LeBron just whines about everything. But there are similarities there as well, not just.
I mean, hey, Caitlin Clark is going to be an incredible athlete for years to come. And we're not even talking about the Olympics. Like when it comes to like female women's game in the Olympics and female basketball in the Olympics, Team USA is going to be very, very well off with Caitlin Clark also. So like that's another dynamic when it comes to Olympic games. Like Caitlin Clark's going to be right there, ready to shine.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. Not gonna lie, I forgot basketball is even like associated with any Olympic activity. Whenever I think Olympics, I think of like skiing and
Track.
like track. Yeah,
volleyball.
not even volleyball. Volleyball skips my head. Literally, I think of like all the different like sledding, skiing, track, fucking like trap shooting, whatever. Like I never think of actual like sports.
Fair. Individual sports. They are sports, just individualized sports.
I didn't want to say individual because technically, like bobsledding and stuff is like 2 to 3 people, so
True.
It's like not fully individual. Or like a relay, like a 4x1, technically 4 people,
But no, I'm excited, man. Caitlin Clark's been incredible for Iowa, and she's gonna be missed. Like she's dynamic, she's awesome to watch. She's very humble. Like she comes across very humble. She'll hopefully turn around the Indian Fever. She'll hopefully turn around the Indiana Fever. But also, let's talk little men's because March Madness is right around the corner.
March Madness is right around the corner. But before we talk men's, why don't we talk about the women's March Madness? Right
Yeah, okay, we'll talk about
not March Madness per se, but closer around the corner, we have the Big Ten tournament going on.
Sure.
So, Iowa, obviously, has a 2-round bye.
Yep.
They are the 2 seed in the tournament. Ohio State is the 1 seed. So that's like, whatever.
Yeah.
But we did prove that we are very capable of beating them, no problem. So now, it looks like we are going to match up with either whoever comes out of the Wisconsin-Penn State game. So both of those teams have like a first-round bye, technically, but they're already matched up against each other. It's broken down a little weird. Only 4 teams play in the first round. It's more like a play-in.
Yeah.
Even though I think it's technically still the first round because it's not March Madness. It's the conference tournament.
Well, and I'm not too worried about either of those games because Iowa beat Wisconsin the first time, January 16th, 96-50. And December 10th, they beat them 87-65. So a 20-point win each time. And then against Penn State, Iowa.
Frankly, no team in the Big Ten worries me when it comes to Iowa.
Maybe. And then Iowa beat Penn State 111-93. So 18-point win. A little closer. So I'd rather play Wisconsin, to be honest.
Wisconsin is the 10 seed. Penn State is the 7th. So
So yeah,
That would track.
I'd rather play Wisconsin, but at the same time, you're right. Like I mean, maybe Ohio State could give us fits once again.
Ohio State would give me some nerves because that is a split difference.
Right.
Like they beat us the first time, we beat them the second time. But I mean, shit, we've watched the men's team lose to Purdue or lose to Illinois, or no, it was Purdue. We watched the men's team lose to Purdue twice in the regular season and then beat them in the Big Ten tournament.
That's true. Yeah, no, we have. The only team that really scares me this year, and it's not LSU, it's South Carolina. South Carolina is undefeated, or I think they've lost one. And so, like, out of the whole tournament, I think South Carolina is the team to beat right now. And they always have this great program down in South Carolina. And if Iowa can come across and we can beat South Carolina, that'd be pretty cool to see.
That would be cool to see. Yeah, they'll probably give me a little nerve. I'll start building up a lot more nerves once we get into the March Madness of everything, just because I'm sure they're going to get by the first few rounds. They're going to make Sweet 16, Elite 8. I would guarantee Elite 8, even though like it can be crazy. One loss and you're out. It's madness for a reason. You can have a bad game. Maybe Caitlin Clark rolls an ankle and, like they lose in the second round, God forbid. But, shit happens sometimes. Look at what happened to Molly. I don't know her last name, but like I forget what she did exactly, but she was like on a wheelchair by the end of that game. And is she done? No, she's expected to come back postseason, right?
Yeah, I think so.
But still, anything can happen, whether it be injury or just having an off game. Maybe the other team is just playing a really, really hot hand. But that's what's crazy about March. So once that time comes, I'm going to be a little nervous. I'm going to feel pretty good about getting up to the Elite 8 at least, assuming we don't face off with South Carolina in like the first round somehow or some shit.
Right. Yeah. Stanford kind of gives me some nerves too. They're the second technical best team in the country right now. But yeah, I mean, I have no doubts that we get to the Elite 8, barring, a freak incident. Other than that, men's.
Let's talk men's.
Right now, we're in the middle of the conference tournaments. A lot of them started. The Big Ten has not started yet. The Big Ten will start March 13th, so next week. And so they haven't posted who each team will be playing yet. But there are some lower level teams that are starting either today or they have already started. One being the Summit League, which they start March 8th. So they start tomorrow.
Oh boy.
And they already have this out of the Summit League. And my Omaha Mavericks have not had a bad year. They've actually not been bad at all. Because
now when Avery says not bad, he doesn't mean good.
No,
not bad.
Yeah, so let me tell you about the Mavericks a little bit real quick. The Mavericks 2 years ago, they fired their long-term coach. Last year, they literally won 3 games. So when they're 14-17 in the second year of this new coach's tenure, like that's not bad. Like they boosted their overall record by like 12 games. But they do play the North Dakota. I don't even know what North Dakota's actual name is because it's not North Dakota State. So they play
North Dakota.
North Dakota. And they play North Dakota. Omaha's the 6th seed. North Dakota is the 3rd seed. And the funny thing about this is I actually attended a North Dakota Omaha game a couple weeks back. And it went into overtime. And North Dakota ended up pulling it off. But Omaha, like, they were right there. They had a 7-point lead with 2 minutes left. And they kind of choked it away. So I think Omaha has a good shot at beating North Dakota. I would love to see because Kansas City, the 2nd seed, plays UD, University of Denver.
DU, my bad. Get it right.
DU. I'm not very familiar with some Colorado schools, but they do play DU. Kansas City plays DU, and DU is the 7th seed. So it would be kind of cool to see Omaha versus DU in the semifinals. That would be kind of unique for this podcast to watch.
That would be very neat to see. Just I've been trying to find the actual bracket this whole time, and I finally just found it. But yeah, so DU. I mean, I'm not a huge like DU fan or anything. Like they're a school that exists. They
Yeah,
don't even have a football team, so they're like very minimally on my radar.
neither
But
does UNO. So like
yeah, well,
that's
I
a
don't
football
I don't
team.
know if anyone in the Summit League. Well,
North
that's not
Dakota
true.
State.
North Dakota State, South Dakota, fucking St. Thomas has a football team, so like never mind, they do. But yes, DU doesn't have football. I know UNO doesn't have football, but I still just being a Colorado school, being a Denver especially school, it's interesting kind of seeing where they're at and what they're doing and whatnot. So I think it'd be really cool if they match up. And I'm sorry to say, but if I were watching that game, I'd probably be rooting for DU.
Wow, you suck. I'm just
That's how it's gonna go.
yeah. We'll see. Hey, maybe one of those two teams could be that Cinderella Fairleigh Dickinson in the tournament. Who knows?
Maybe.
Another small conference I kind of want to talk to is Missouri Valley a little bit. UNI Panthers. Right now, the UNI Panthers, and there's two reasons I want to talk about this. UNI, of course, but also Indiana State. Have you seen the guy from Indiana State at all?
No.
Their starter, his nickname is, hold on. It's funny. We'll have to pull up his picture on the bracket at some point.
Okay. Well, speaking of the Missouri Valley Conference, UNI does have a first round bye. They're going to play either Valparaiso or Belmont. Whoever wins that game happening. Oh my gosh, that's today. Oh my gosh, That's right now. It's on TV.
UNI or no Valparaiso?
No. Whoever UNI is going to play, that game is on TV.
Okay. Can you tell we don't watch much basketball, guys? Sorry, we're going through this.
This year has been down for me. Last year I watched a ton. Last year I got into basketball right out of the gate. Fucking watched almost every Iowa game. Watched just random other Big Ten games because why not? But this year just I haven't been as like attentive to it. So
the guy from Indiana State I'm talking about is named Robbie Avila, and his nickname in college basketball right now is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like a Hall of Fame basketball player. It's because he's goofy and he wears like big old goggles when he plays. And he does not look like he would be a starting basketball player for like a very good Indiana State team.
Purdue is actually playing Purdue versus Nebraska, Big Ten tournament. Is this old? This might be an old. There's no.
I think it's old.
Yeah, I was just like scrolling through YouTube TV, like, oh, why don't I throw on a game? And I was like, wait, what?
So I just sent you a picture. Go on and look at this picture of this Robbie Avila guy. His nickname is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But he's averaged 17.6 games, and he's a big reason why Indiana State is good.
I see. This is quite the guy right there. That's what we're looking at right here, everybody.
Dude is a stud, though. And, Indiana State is very good this year. UNI has not had a bad year. Like you mentioned, they are the second seed, or the fourth seed. And they do have a one-round bye.
First round bye.
It'll be exciting to see who comes out of this conference. I mean, I would be okay with UNI, and I would definitely be okay with Indiana State also. So it'll be interesting to see. Other than that, man, like March Madness, I'm ready for it. I'm prepped. I'm excited. This is the one time a year I get real in tuned into basketball. I hope you do too.
This will definitely be, despite my lack of watching basketball over the past 2-3 months, whenever it started, I am definitely going to get much more into it now as March Madness goes. Avery and I are probably going to make brackets and do the whole, watching our bracket stuff in the next episode or two here. So, I'm going to be paying attention to my bracket, making sure I don't win nothing big out of that.
For sure. I do want to talk about the Iowa men's Hawkeyes real quick. They have a 49.2% chance of making the tournament. This goes up to 58% if Iowa beats Illinois on Sunday. So, Illinois, Iowa, final game of the year. if Iowa can pull it off against Illinois on Sunday, Iowa is probably going to March Madness. And this is huge because Iowa started off real bad, like real bad. And the last couple of weeks, they've kind of flipped a script and they've beat some good teams. And I'm just hoping we can get a chance into the tournament. That's all any fan wants to see.
So I've actually just confirmed that the game, this is a live game right now. It's a women's game. It is number 12 Purdue versus number 5 Nebraska in the second round of the women's tournament going on.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah. Nebraska is currently winning, just by 5 points. If anyone's curious.
And Nebraska is going to be another team that's probably going to be in the tournament this year. And let's see if they can pull off a win because they're the only Power 5 school that hasn't won a March Madness game. So let's see if Nebraska can pull. I kind of want them to win one game, as long as it's not like Iowa or somebody or UNI.
Talking about the men's or the women's team?
The men's.
I'm talking about the women's team.
Oh, okay.
But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and so I think it would be kind of cool to see Nebraska finally win one this year.
It would. Well, because last year they made a run in the tournament, like the Big Ten tournament, didn't they?
Yeah, I think they went to the semis.
Yeah, they made it a decent ways.
Yeah, I think they went to the semis. So who knows, man? I mean, we'll have more material for you next week because that's when a lot of these games will start to finalize and we'll kind of get a clearer picture.
Selection Sunday is going to happen on March 17th, so we are probably going to have an episode coming out within the next few days of that. We're going to be making our brackets. We're going to be, paying attention. We're probably going to recap some of the tournaments going on next week when we record next week. We'll recap some tournament play or just give the current updates of what the tournament's doing. The conference tournaments, I should say. But, yeah. I'm excited for basketball. I haven't been into it at all yet or anything, but March Madness is always an exciting time to be around. So I'm definitely ready to watch, and I'm ready to start paying attention a little bit.
For sure.
And the men's team, as bad as they have been, they're above 500. And you know what's my one rule with any sport and anything going on? Just be above 500. I'm okay.
Yep. And I agree 100%. And that's really all I got for this episode, guys. It's an hour and a half.
That's about all I got as well. And it's been a little while, but that's what's going to happen when you let the flow go. So that was kind of the flow zone a little bit. I'm sure we'll make some tweaks and adjustments in there with how we do other things next time. But instant feedback, I like it. I like to start talking.
Me too. I thought it was good, especially our football. Sorry we're not as well versed in basketball, but we'll get there. We will get there. Don't worry about it. March Madness right around the corner. We strive during March Madness. We're a March Madness podcast in March. Not necessarily a football podcast. We're a March Madness in March. So we'll get there. We'll be pros by the next time you see us.
So we'll keep it going. Tell us what you guys thought of this, whether you liked it, hated it, whatever. Please don't hate it. That'll make me sad. But give us some feedback. Go ahead and leave your comments. Like and subscribe to us. And I think that's the episode. Sorry, it's been a long one, but hopefully it's been a good one.
All right, guys. All I got to say is 2 words, and you know the deal. Bear down.